Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Springer from Kelly's Choice, and we are talking about Kelly's tips for missing nutrients. So just to give you a little bit of background on Kelly's Choice, our mission is empowering individuals to invest in themselves and their overall wellness in pursuit of living their best lives. Sounds pretty good, right? So if you're looking for more private practice, definitely reach out to us at kellyschoice.org. And you can even reach us through our email right there on the website, or you can call our sideline number as well. So looking forward to working with you through that private practice. So let's jump into today's presentation. We have the standard American diet. Standard American diet. It is sad. That's the acronym, and that's what it actually is. It is one of the saddest diets that we see around the world. So why? Well, it's missing nutrients, and that's the whole topic of today's presentation. That is why the standard American diet is so poor. It's because it's missing potassium, fiber, calcium, vitamin D, and iron. So why? What happened? When did this all come about? Well, it was when we started refining foods. So if you think about back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, we still were eating whole foods. We were eating potatoes, and we were eating whole grains, and we were eating vegetables and fruits. I remember going to my grandparents' house and having these whole foods. Foods were made at home. We also were not eating out as much. There wasn't so much prepared foods. We were actually preparing these foods at home. But over the 80s, 90s, 2000s, we actually have refined and processed all of our foods. And through that processing, we actually eliminated a lot of these nutrients and vitamins. Plus, we've gotten into a lot of fad diets over the years. So think about there's the grapefruit diet, or even intermittent fasting, the keto diet. Think about what nutrients may be missing from a keto diet right here, right? So this is where with these fad diets and the way to market nutrition, we actually have cut out a lot of these nutrients that are critical for our health. All right, so let's get into potassium. What is potassium? Why do we need it? Why are we missing it? So why we need it is potassium is one of the nutrients we literally cannot live without. And as you can see here, you get it from avocados, bananas. Potatoes are actually really high in potassium. Something not listed here also is tomatoes. Tomatoes are really high in potassium. Our dairy products are high in potassium. So lots of different ways you can get it in. Also fish, green beans, spinach, lots of ways we can get in potassium naturally. So why we miss it is because the recommended amount of potassium is 4,700 milligrams per day, but the current, we're only getting about 56% of that goal. So potassium actually can help regulate any of our electrolytes, or our fluid balance, helps regulate our heart, a lot of different things that work in the way of potassium. And so we want to make sure that we're getting in these types of foods so we can get the right amount of potassium that our bodies are actually looking for. In the way of fiber, so if you've ever heard me talk, you know that fiber is my favorite word. Fiber is so critical to our health. Fiber is actually non-digestible carbohydrate that moves through our body and helps promote digestion and prevent constipation, as well as helping to regulate cholesterol levels. Why would these things be? So as dietitians and as medical professionals, we're always talking about these words: digestion, constipation. What does this actually mean? So when we eat fiber, we can't digest it, but it goes into our gut biome. In our gut biome, we have over 100 trillion bacterial cells. Those bacterial cells are responsible for taking those fiber sources and breaking it down, because they actually eat it as food. So when they ingest the fiber sources that we eat, they produce nutrients and vitamins, plus the fiber kind of scrapes the side of that digestive tract, which gets out any of that LDL cholesterol that's kind of stuck around the sides. So that's how it can actually help produce lower cholesterol. Plus, one fun fact, when you eat fiber-rich sources, it actually makes the liver create these things called bile salts, which then in return creates more HDL, which helps gets LDL cholesterol out of the body. So it's a lot of biochemistry, but basically understanding that we need to make sure we're getting fiber sources. So I just got off with a private practice and he's like, oh, I had a pork chop for lunch, or I had this. Where's the fiber? Where is the whole grain? Where is the fruit? Where is the vegetable? When we add fiber to our meals, we're getting soluble and insoluble fiber. This helps to regulate blood sugar levels. It helps feed that digestive tract, and it helps truly to keep us healthier. The average American is nowhere near where they should be in the way of fiber sources. So the recommendation at this point is to get 5 to 10 grams of fiber per meal. Great ways to do this are adding in beans, adding in lentils, adding in Brussels sprouts. Apples are a great way. Bananas, whole grains. All of these are great ways to add in fiber. So make sure you're getting about 5 to 10 grams of fiber per meal. The average American is getting that per day. Okay, calcium. So 75% of Americans consume daily recommended intake of calcium, which is pretty good, but we're not getting enough in the way of this combination. So talked to 2 patients today with osteoporosis. So back in the day, we used to give calcium supplements. This is back in the 90s, early 2000s. What we now know is by adding in real foods in the way of dairy, spinach, tons of different calcium sources in the way of nuts and all of these different calcium sources, they have a mixture of what our bones are looking for. They have this mixture of all the electrolytes that body and that bone needs. It's not just calcium that is going to reverse osteoporosis. We want to make sure we're getting foods in their natural state. When they're in their natural state, this is going to ensure that you're getting everything that body needs. Okay, so we're just talking about, I went to India before the pandemic, and something that I realized is why the cow is so praised and is in all churches and also in temples. So why is that cow so praised? It's because dairy products when you consume them, have all of your natural electrolytes. They have magnesium, they have potassium, they have calcium, they have sodium, they have protein. All of these things that you can find in this dairy product in the way of cottage cheese, yogurts, milks, actually fulfill the body to maintain that muscle mass, maintain that bone strength. So when we eat calcium sources in their natural state, this means that we're truly getting all of those nutrients and vitamins that we are missing. So just by taking a calcium supplement is not going to get you to where you need to go. So this is where, again, in that standard American diet, we have missed the boat. We're not getting in whole foods. We're taking supplements or this, that, whatever, and they're only one lane. We want to make sure that we're getting foods in completion. This is going to help us to reach all of these nutrients and vitamins. The same goes with vitamin D. Now, we're a little behind because we live in central New York. So until today, I actually got some vitamin D outside today, but we really have a hard time getting vitamin D from sunlight. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes of direct sunlight to come into our bodies, actually work with cholesterol to change it over so that we can use vitamin D from the sun. So we want to make sure, if we truly do live in central New York, to make sure we are getting foods that are fortified with vitamin D. This is where a supplement, again, if we can't get it through our diet naturally, this is where a supplement would come into play. I try to eat eggs every morning, get fortified dairy. You can also get fortified orange juice with vitamin D. But vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So you want to make sure whenever you're having vitamin D sources, even a supplement, that you're having it with a fat source. So that's going to help the uptake of vitamin D into the system. Okay. So you want to also make sure you check with your medical professional about where your vitamin D levels are. I highly recommend that you get your vitamin D levels checked right before winter because we're going into those months. So if you're already deficient in vitamin D, you need to make sure that you're getting supplementation, and you may even need a prescription from your doctor to get you through those winter months. You can definitely work with our registered dietitians. We can look at your lab work to assess what that vitamin D level is and recommend the vitamin D to your physician. Okay. So definitely vitamin D is one of those huge missing nutrients that, especially living in central New York, can cause a lot of havoc. Vitamin D is correlated with mental health. It's correlated with bone health. It's correlated with immunity. Vitamin D is an extremely essential vitamin that works on so many aspects of our bodies. All right, so let's talk about iron. Iron is really interesting too. So working with our physiologists from Syracuse University, we're talking a lot about iron. And iron does seem to be a missing nutrient, especially as people go more plant-based. So remember, plant-based doesn't mean you need to cut out animal protein. When you cut fully out animal protein, you're missing heme iron. Heme iron is more readily absorbed than you're going to get from non-heme iron, which comes from plant sources. We want to make sure we're getting at least 25% of our plate coming from those animal sources, from lean animal sources, to ensure that we're getting enough iron sources. If you truly feel, again, we should get our blood work done. And if you feel like your vitamin levels are low, get those checked. You can work with one of our dietitians to work on your iron levels. But again, in America, we just focus on iron, but iron comes along with a lot of different things. So when we want to have an uptake of iron, number one, we need to take it away from calcium sources. Calcium and iron compete for absorption in the body. So if we are taking calcium and iron together, we're going to compete. So this is where understanding nutrition and biochemistry can really help. Now, taking iron with a vitamin C source like strawberries or peppers or tomatoes will actually help the uptake of iron into the body. So again, work with a registered dietitian with your lab work if you feel like you're truly missing nutrients and your blood work is a little bit off. Okay. Also, in the way of iron is making red blood cells. Iron attaches to red blood cells to actually spread oxygen throughout the body. If you don't have the nutrients and vitamins to make red blood cells, it may not be that you have an iron deficiency. It could be the red blood cells. So this is where it can get, again, back into a lot of biochemistry. But to make that red blood cell, you need to make sure that you have B12, you have copper, you have nutrients and vitamins that help to make that red blood cell to attach to iron. So this is where working with a dietitian and understanding that eating whole foods is going to provide you with these nutrients and vitamins that we are missing through the standard American diet. So getting into how to incorporate these into the diet, you could actually, for potassium, have a small baked potato, a medium-sized banana, a cup of cooked spinach, or some beets. For fiber, you can have some black beans, a medium pear, some fresh raspberries, sweet potato with skins. For calcium, getting in some collard greens, some Swiss cheese, some low-fat milk. For vitamin D, you can have some canned tuna, some fortified milk, fortified orange juice, and then for iron, having some clams, edamame, lentils, some steak, or a cup of broccoli. As you can see, every single thing on this page in front of you is actually showing you how to incorporate whole foods into your diet to make sure you're getting the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the proteins that are needed to sustain our bodies. We need to fuel our bodies with food and giving it what it needs to actually survive. So I hope you truly learned from this presentation. I highly recommend that you get your blood work done and reach out to our dietitians to help you to put together a healthy eating plan that's going to elevate your vitamins and minerals so that you can live a healthier, sustainable life. So thank you so much for your time today. We greatly appreciate you being on today's presentation. There's a lot of information that surrounds the lack of nutrients and vitamins in our American diets. So please reach out to us at kellyschoice.org to schedule an appointment with us. We look forward to working you in the near future, and I hope that you learned something from today's presentation. And it goes back to our motto, real people promoting real food. Get real food in your diet, and you will make sure that you're not missing nutrients. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your evening.